Nowadays, the karma come back a lot faster. People you were ahead of them seem to shot past you. WrestleMania, high yourself, you done got tagged. Bottom rail on top, master. Nowadays, the karma come back a lot faster. People you were ahead of them seem to shot past you. WrestleMania, high yourself, you done got tagged. Let me at him, don't let me Eve. Ain't we been here before? I feel a naked breeze. I just went to the store and bought extra leaves. Bloody murder, I need a couple accessories. Necessities, I bear them all. And hold court with the lion so we can share the ball. You relying on sipping lean and Adderall. I'm relying on daily bread that manna fall. Whew, I'm about to manifest destiny. Manifold, Emmanuel is the recipe. Many your days a number like sesame. Why you grouchy, big birds for a lesser fee? Incessantly, incest with a lesser me. Gave birth to a higher power to like the 10th degree. All my chakras is balanced, you feel the energy. Married to wisdom, proposed to on bended knee. Gave her the ring, we broke the glass and jumped the broom. I'm on a natural high, call it the honeymoon. Love heals, but trust will give you some ugly wounds. And hate to kill your emotions worse than the 22. Ricochet, I'm coming from every which way.
And which, of course, relate to this particular topic as well, and that's the Brexit. Even so, some have coined it as, quote, the Brexit. So that's very interesting, just to put that in a certain note as well. And this is all pertaining to the United Kingdom's referendum, and the British referendum, which, of course, spells out all of the, I guess you could say, linkage of the United Kingdom to the European Union, or the EU, the 27-member state international body, which encompasses 27 European nations there on that particular front of the subcontinent. Now, as far as many of the negotiations have gone on from a certain extent, we haven't come across too much new information as for our last particular URZ podcast, but we did find some very, very interesting information in a segment which, of course, comes from The Guardian, which, of course, they have coined in many certain ways as this is the Brexit or the Brexit. So we also will have a couple of recordings just to expound upon that a little more. A first recording, of course, which will come from Lord Heseltine. Lord Heseltine, a former Deputy Prime Minister, as far as that is concerned, a conservative in this particular party, in which was, of course, headed up by the former Prime Minister there, Margaret Thatcher. And very interesting, just to say the least, the comments that have come forth from this one, Heseltine, and he spills out and speaks out on the Brexit as far as from a conservative perspective. So we get another opinion and another point of view juxtaposed as to being in favor of the Brexit, as of course our the current Prime Minister Theresa May, of course, has had to kind of play the fence, as one say in certain aspects of media, but also showing a bit of support. But and again, having this entire framework in place for ones to get the full view and the entire vantage point, the overarching scheme of things as far as the Brexit, so the Brexit, the British exit from the European Union is concerned. But even so, our second recording, of course, it comes from another recording service, but for a news network, media news network outlet, and speak on the position of Germany. And seeing as far as Frankfurt, seeing a certain amount of gain to be had as per London with the European Union's exit of the UK, just showing a lot of the geopolitical shift, the socio-economic shift as far as that is concerned, as the UK seeks to revitalize certain times of old, at least pre-European Union, as far as the atmosphere and the political landscape is shown on that front. But even so, we have a article here from The Guardian, which we mentioned before coming to this particular subject matter that is entitled here, Frankfurt Prepares for Brexit. It has put extra wind into our sails, quote unquote. And this article, again, coming from The Guardian, actually an older article from last month, but we definitely saw the value in expounding on it a bit here, and of course giving a little bit of a commentary in that sense. And this article, of course, is written by Philip Alterman. Alterman is, of course, located there in Frankfurt for The Guardian's correspondent, and we'll read into the record a little bit of the commentary which comes from The Guardian on the British referendum or the Brexit. And it reads as such. Peter Ferris, founder, head teacher of Frankfurt's Metropolitan School. Peter Ferris, of course, also will be mentioned in our recording, our second recording after Lord Heseltine. But continuing on, knows a thing or two about London bankers. He used to be one. For 7 years, Ferris worked as a managing director for Credit Suisse in the city, marshalling billion-dollar stock market flotation of emerging market companies. In 2005, he chucked in his career in the square mile. After completing a teacher training course, he headed to Frankfurt's Rodelheim district to found one of the city's 13 international private schools. 10 years later, the city is catching up with a German ex-banker gang in the wake of Britain's vote to leave the European Union. He is on a daily basis fielding calls from London financiers whose employers are considering moving parts of their operation to Germany. Some banks have already block booked places for the new year at the school where means-tested fees range from €1,800 to €11,000 a year. Which banks and how many places is not allowed to say, but it has been enough to give him confidence to further expand the school. Over the next 2 years, the Metropolitan is building an additional 10 classrooms. Quote, Frankfurt was booming anyway, but Brexit has put extra wind into our sails, he said, unquote. Probably, even if Corbyn were to get elected tomorrow and decide to overturn the vote. Other schools in the area report similar trends. The highly ranked Frankfurt International School has noted an uptick in calls from London-based parents since July and has been paid visits by 12 international companies, some of which have left head teacher Paul Faulkner's office with disappointed faces. The school's waiting list is already several hundred people long. Even establishments that don't offer the International Baccalaureate diploma, such as the trilingual Erasmus Frankfurt City School, are planning to set aside an entire classroom for children of bankers swept across the channel by what German papers refer to as the Brexiters. We need to start making contingency plans, says the Erasmus School's head teacher, Holger Beckman. At the moment, Frankfurt isn't prepared yet. Education is just one of the sectors of Frankfurt's public life gripped by a mixture of excitement and anxiety, and Germany's financial capital finds itself in pole position to become the biggest benefactor of Britain's pending departure from the European Union. International banks including UBS, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Standard Chartered, Citibank, South Korea's Woori Bank, and Japan's Sumitomo Mitsui Financial Group have all announced that they are either making Frankfurt the new hub of the European operation or their European operations, or at least relocating individual departments to the River Main. The Goldman Sachs chief executive, Lloyd Blankfein, has tweeted that he will be, quote, spending a lot more time, unquote, in Frankfurt. with some reports that the company is considering moving as many as 1,000 employees to the city. With the UK likely to lose its European Union passporting rights, special licenses allowing London-based banks to trade across the European Union and applications for a German banking license taking a year to process, financial institutions are under growing pressure to commit. The head of Germany's financial regulator, BaFin, was warned, or has been warned, that it would cast a skeptical eye at empty shells or letterbox model, meaning banks will have to set up fully regulated functioning subsidiaries with management oversight and IT systems in continental Europe. In a message echoed this week by the European Central Bank, or the ECB, which, like BaFin, has headquarters in Frankfurt, I expect we will be seeing a lot of movement in the middle of next year, says Eric Minget of Frankfurt Rhine-Main, an agency marketing the region on behalf of the local government. You still have some banks in denial who believe that Brexit won't happen. That may be their view, but I don't see a transitional deal for the current banking passport system being at the forefront of the Brexit negotiations at the moment. Buoyed by the feeling that banks are starting to vote with their feet, the German government is increasingly confident of beating competition from other sites, including Dublin, Paris, Vienna, to become the future host of the European Banking Authority, or the EBA. Currently a London-based body working to align banking rules in the EU, a decision on the EBA's new location is expected from Brussels on Monday. Ambitious plans to unite the EBA with the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority under one umbrella, dubbed the so-called Twin Peak model, may have been shelved following a lukewarm reception in the European Council, but in the German Finance Ministry, optimism is running high. If this, rather than a political contest, then Frankfurt is the strongest candidate, says one official. The city of short distances is the tagline of the official application, a reference both to the short travel times for our commuters and the possibility of uniting the European Central Bank, private bank headquarters, and their regulator in Frankfurt's compact financial district. The city's appeals court is planning to set up an English language chamber by January 2018 so that big international companies do not have to turn to London to resolve commercial disputes. While not everyone shares lobby group Frankfurt Main Finance's prediction that banks relocating from London will bring 10,000 new jobs to the city over the next 5 years, speculation is already beginning to play havoc with the real estate market. Office vacancy rates, though still at 10% following years of downturns in the financial sector, are dwindling. Renting workspace in Frankfurt may still be considerably cheaper than London, Dublin, and Paris, but costs are on average already more than twice as high as in Hamburg and Berlin. Locals are increasingly concerned that the influx of London banks could push residents out into the periphery of the city as property prices keep rising. Frankfurt's head of local planning, Social Democrat Councillor Mike Yosef, has indicated that he could tighten building restrictions for high-rises outside the current, well aware of how international financial institutions have come to dominate London's skyline with their gherkins, cheese graters, and walkie-talkies. Other residents question whether Frankfurt, a city of 730,000, can live up to the expectation of bankers used to cultural life In London, a metropolitan of 8.7 million people. At a conference in September, Deutsche Bank's British chief executive warned that the city was missing a couple of hundred restaurants and a dozen theaters. Jacqueline Vogt, a restaurant critic for Frankfurt, Allgemeine Zeitung, describes the banking chief's call for more gastronomic choice as completely utopian. While the number of restaurants on Central Kassenstrasse has exploded in recent years, and trendy cafe bars such as Plank are starting to open in the seedier corners of the red light district around the central train station, booking a table is usually not much of a struggle. This year's Michelin Guide lists 8-star restaurants in the city, 3 fewer than last year. While traditional Frankfurt establishments serving jugs of local Edelweiss cedar attract a healthy mix of blue and white collar workers, there are few of the upper middle range eateries catering to the taste of novelty-hungry Londoners. Frankfurt's downsides are its upsides, folks say. Instead of accommodating a work hard, play hard culture, the city offers opportunities for bankers to de-stress, whether by cycling the vast Stadtpark, hiking in the Feldberg Mountains just outside the city, or watching football clubs such as Eintracht Frankfurt, FSV Mainz 05, SV Darmstadt, or FFC Frankfurt, one of Europe's most successful women's. Bankers with families considering a move will be encouraged by Mercer's 2017 Quality of Living ranking, which has Frankfurt in 7th place, way ahead of London at 4th. Financial workers in their 20s and early 30s may think twice. In the late 1980s, Frankfurt was considered the capital of German electronic music, but with German reunification, clubs and DJs migrated to Berlin. The city's only remaining nightclubs of note are Hans Haus West in the Gutle Quarter and Robert Johnson in nearby Offenbach, close to the University of Art and Design. Tellingly, the only big clubbing-related project taking shape at the moment is a museum of electronic music, the pioneer of Frankfurt's techno scene, Ben Bach, to London, of all places. Frankfurt's clubbing scene hasn't developed much in recent years, says Neil Bremer of local arts magazine journal Frankfurt. If you have friends over from London or Berlin and they want to go out on a Tuesday night, well, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Then again, London bankers staying in Britain may be a surmountable problem for banks relocating to continental Europe. They could just hire locally instead. Very, very interesting. That concludes our reading here for this particular article from The Guardian on Frankfurt's potential gain and its already seeded gain as per the British referendum, or the Brexit, quote-unquote, as it has been coined, or the Brexit. Is just a lot of interesting information that has come forward still, even on the outliers of what has been going on there in the United Kingdom as pertaining to the European Union. And so we get
every law that ever prevented our survival, documented in the Bible like Moses.